The 785th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our free bracket challenge, $2,000 winner take all. Enter today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bracket.
Heidi ho, degenerinos. Welcome to episode, get it on my screen, 785 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to give it out to Eric Does Sports, who has outed himself as a fellow old person in our Discord. Not as old as me, but still old.
Is he as old as me?
He's older than you. He's like he's only like 3 years younger than me, I think.
So he's quite a bit older than me.
He's quite a bit older than you. That voice you hear, that young voice you hear, would be the one and only Daniel Gummy Breland. I am Jeff Pussy Fox, and we're covering this up. It still makes you laugh. Good. I was wondering. My brother mentioned how he likes how that it sneaks up on you, and you start laughing.
Caught me off guard again.
I haven't gained any courage since I haven't gone to see the Wizard, and I gotten a heart since then. So we're doing UFC, and it's a UFC fight night, but it's a good UFC fight night. That's the difference. It's not in the Apex. It is in London, England, at the O2 Arena. Very good fight card. How do I know it's good? Because they're actually good matchups. How do I know it's good matchups? Because it was hard to pick a lot of these fights. I don't know if it's the same for you, Gumby, but there's a lot of tight ones here.
Yeah, there are a lot of tight ones. A couple of them were hard for me to pick. Mm-hmm. I had to double check and make sure that I remembered people a certain way. I sometimes have impressions, and then I go back and I watch them, and I was like, why did I think that about that person? Why is that my default memory? For some reason, Puja Tomar, it could be that she's Indian, and I just assume, most really good Indian fighters, she could wrestle, and she can't. Not particularly well.
I assume that she's talking oh wait, yeah, she won her last fight.
Yeah, but did she? Did she though?
Yeah.
Did she though?
Yeah,
I don't think she.
I thought, they're giving Mama B a favorable matchup once again, but maybe they're not. Maybe they are. I mean, we'll see. And
it's a well booked fight, if nothing else. And that's, I think, Spider-Man to your point, kind of what we're getting across the board here is just really well booked stylistic matchups that are fun to watch.
Very British heavy fight card, not surprising, because they are, as I mentioned, at the O2 Arena. So a lot of up and coming prospects. 2 former champions at the top of the card. We won't be talking about them today. Today's all the prelims, but very solid prelims nonetheless. Heavyweights on the prelims, and not bad heavyweights. So it shows you how deep the fight card is. So we're going to dive into it. But first, I remind you, the clock is ticking. Time is, you've only got, depends when you're going to only have a little over 12 hours, we'll say, but by the time you hear this or see this, to compete against SGPN this month in our $75,000 winner take all college basketball survivor contest. March has never been this exciting. Enter at splashsports.com/SGPN. That's splash SPLASH sports.com/SGPN, and use our promo code finals for a $10 bonus credit. All right. Try to beat our so-called experts at the network. All right. So UFC fight night, Edwards versus Brady is what it's called. We're not talking about them today, as I mentioned, though. We're talking only the prelims. You can call it UFC London, going down this coming Saturday at the O2 Arena in London, England. ESPN Plus, because as the recent news story made clear, ESPN does not put the UFC on their main network anymore. That relationship seems to have gone south. They're almost exclusively on ESPN Plus.
Are you bummed out about that though? I heard that, and I was like, they haven't been really good at broadcasting anyway. No. What are we getting from ESPN that we don't get from ESPN Plus, or we don't get from Fight Pass? We get all these things anyway. So if it winds up on Netflix, as it says it's going to, first of all, I'm a Netflix subscriber, so give me all the free stuff. I'm fine with that. I can cancel a subscription.
And give us I just want pay-per-views to go away. So if pay-per-views can go away via Netflix, then Isn't
that what happened with WWE? They lost their pay-per-view model. They still have
they chose
pay-per-views.
They chose to put everything in-house on their network. So they got rid of pay-per-views and everything was on their network. And then their network, they sold that basically to Netflix. So no more pay-per-views. Is it all on Netflix now? I don't watch pro wrestling. It's all on Netflix? Yeah. Everything's on Netflix. Yep.
Okay. So then the UFC is definitely going to Netflix.
You would think that. TKO and everything. You would think that. And they screwed up the pay-per-view. Like ESPN screwed up the pay-per-view. Like last pay-per-view ended up free for everyone because they screwed it up so bad. So yeah, it's a lot of things are going down. But yeah, you're gonna see it on Sportsnet up here in Canada as per usual. But in the States, ESPN Plus strictly for this fight card. 1 p.m. Eastern start time low on Saturday, so you'll have multiple screens. I guess it doesn't really matter what time they start on Saturday.
It's gonna end right before LFA.
Oh, right, okay. But I'm thinking college basketball as well. So it's all day regardless. So
yeah, people watch other sports, right?
Exactly. You can. We just asked them to enter our bracket contest or our survivor contest. So yeah, you're gonna have multiple screens, but that doesn't seem to be a problem with you whippersnappers. It might be hard for me or for Eric Does Sports, but for you young people, you're all on your screens anyhow. So let's kick things off. Prelims. We got 7 fights going down. Starting with the lightweight battle. Guram, Kutateladze. I put some extras in there. Kutateladze. I should say it like Italian, right? And then it comes up better. Kutateladze versus Fernandes. Brazil versus Georgia. I'll tell you about Fernandes first. 9-2, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's never been finished in a fight. 1-1 in the UFC, 3-2 over his last 5. He did win his last fight via TKO. Regional champion. He used to fight at 145. 2014 pro MMA debut. An inch of reach over Kutateladze. 3 years younger. Better striking stats. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 2.18 strikes per minute. He's at plus 340. The Georgian Viking is 13-4, 7 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. 2-2 in the UFC. 1-2 over his last 3. He did win his last fight though. Used to fight at 170, 2010 pro MMA debut, 2 inches of height over Fernandes, more active landing strikes, better grappling stats. He's one of these guys with the 0.0 strike differential. Somehow through 4 fights, he's been hit as often as he has hit his opponent. He's at, I have him at plus 410, but no, minus 410 alas. All right, kick us off, Gumby.
I'm going to go Kutateladze. I gave Fernandes a second look because I was trying to make sure I remembered him correctly. And the big issue for me too is just like the ability to not get up or the ability to be held against the cage. I'm thinking back to the Mark Diakese fight, and I think people slept on how good Mark Diakese was for a really long time. Like he's a chronically underrated fighter, but like, why is he underrated? Is it because he's got a little bit of wrestling and you typically think of him as a striker? And his little bit of wrestling held down Fernandes for 8+ minutes, or held him against the cage. He had 8+ minutes of control time. And for me, that's a huge problem when you're fighting Guram Kutateladze, because Kutateladze can hang with people on the feet pretty well, right? Like he's crafty. He, has some unorthodox kind of stuff he throws. I think Fernandes might be a touch better there, but then when it goes to the grappling, I think it's one-way traffic. So I think that's why the line's as wide as it is. Kutateladze has 2 ways to win. He can look good on the feet. He's got tons of knockouts on his record, right? And I think, career, he's got 7 or 8 knockouts. And so like he could knock him out, but also like if he just doesn't like what he sees, he just makes this an easy fight and drags him to the mat. So yeah, give me Kutateladze in this one. Yeah,
I agree. I agree with everything Gumby said there. He's got the edge regardless of where this fight is, especially if he decides to drag Fernandes into deep waters and grapple with him. So Kutateladze is our pick. Sorry, we're going with minus 410 to kick things off. We got a much closer one, at least on paper, next. A bantamweight bout, Nathan Fletcher versus Loughran. Let's break her down. Loughran is the Dawn. 9-2, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's never been finished in a fight. 1-2 in the UFC, loss, win, loss. Is his pattern. He's a former Cage Warrior champion. We have quite a few of those. Not surprising on this card. He's fought at 145. He's twice more active than Fletcher is landing strikes. Fletcher's only have stats for 1 fight for him though. Loughran's barely outstruck his opponents in the UFC. He's at plus 0.02. And on the board, he's plus 105. Fletcher is 9-1, 1 knockout, 7 submissions. He's been knocked out once. 1-0 in the UFC. He's won 3 straight, 2 straight via submission. He's not lost since September 2021. 0-1 in the Ultimate Fighter. He lost to the champ, right? I believe. The man that ended up winning it, I believe. Do you remember, Gumby?
I'm trying to remember who Fletcher lost to. No, I think he lost to the guy who is in the finals. I think he might have lost to Con Authley.
Yeah, right. You're right. I'm sorry. I keep thinking he won, but yes, that is who he lost to. Yep. Used to fight at 145 as well. An inch of height, 2 inches of reach over Loughran, 2 years younger. He's outstruck his one opponent. We have stats for about 1.29 strikes per minute. He's got better stats, grappling stats than Loughran. And he beat Loughran in a AMI fight 7 years ago, I believe it was, minus 115. This was a tough one. Was this a tough one for you, Gumby? before I give up my pick, or not?
It was, yeah. I debated on this one for a while.
Yeah, I debated. I watched their amateur fight. Look at me.
That's not a fight that gives you anything to read.
No, it does kind of. They're similar. Like Fletcher just spammed the takedowns, which is what he does. Loughran got taken down a lot, but he swept him a lot as well. I guess I will go to my default. I will take the better striker, which will be Loughran. And like I said, in the amateur fight, he did get taken down, but he also was very active on the ground and was able to reverse things. I know that was a long time ago, but I generally like strikers over grapplers because I think they win more often. So give me Loughran as a small dog here.
I'm gonna go with Fletcher. And yes, it is a grappler versus striker matchup, and like that's probably the right way to look at it. But I'm not even necessarily taking him because I think the grappling's gonna work. Like it might work, and that's a path to victory for him. But also, like I think my problem with Loughran is he just it's Loughran.
Loughran. Your problem is how to say his name. That's your problem.
Yeah, that's true. He just loads up on punches too much. That's the piece for me that stands out. Like I think Fletcher will know what's coming back and be able to get out of the way. And that if he's able to do that, first of all, he's going to make a miss and score some takedowns. And that on top of that, like he's able to put together a couple of combinations. Like he's pretty good on the feet when he needs to be. He just doesn't need to be all that often. So I like Fletcher here. I think he can get it done in a couple of different ways, but I do hope he gets to the grappling quite a bit.
Yeah, Loughran's got a big old head to hit too, so he has a target for sure if he chooses to.
And he's not super fast either, too. When he's moving in and out, like he's pretty stationary.
Yeah, it's true. I'm taking him. It's basically as the odds show, it's pretty much a toss up. So I'll take the dog. Why not? Next fight, women's strawweight fight. Shauna Bannon. So back to back Irish fighters. Caolán Loughran, now Shauna Bannon. She's up against Puja. Tomar is not a Tomar. That was my original person I did the Tomar joke for, I believe. And what a joke it is. She's from India, as Dan mentioned off the top. 3 5-minute rounds. Let's break it down. Tell you about Tomar first. The Cyclone is 9-4 with 6 knockouts. She's been knocked out once, submitted 3 times, 1-0 in the UFC. She's won 5 straight. So she got all of her losing done early in her career. She's won 5 straight, has not lost since January 2020. She's regional champ. She won 1-3 in 1 championship. So this is easy now for her. Now that she's in the UFC. Used to fight at 105, 125, and 135. 2013 pro MMA debut. 0-1 in pro Muay Thai. Better striking stats and more active landing strikes than Bannon. Better grappling stats than Bannon as well. It's based off very small sample size. 1 fight for her, 2 for Bannon. She's outstruck her opponent in the UFC by 0.73 strikes per minute. She's at plus 150. Mama B. Bannon is 6-1 with 2 knockouts. Never been finished in a fight. 1-1 in the UFC. Won her last fight. She's got multiple regional championships on her
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamepodcast.com/store. Try the code madness. It might work still. Used to fight at 125, 2-0 in Invicta, an inch of height, 6 inches reach over Tomar. She has outstruck her opponents in the UFC by 0.6 strikes per minute. She's at minus 170.
My turn?
Yep.
I'm going to go with an underdog here. I'm going to take Puja Tomar.
Me too.
Yeah, and I watched back that fight with, what was it, High and Amanda, right?
I watched it too.
Yeah.
Look at me doing tape.
She didn't win that fight, first of all. I'm going to take that win away from her. And I think if you go on MMA decisions, I would imagine most of the pundits would feel the same way on that one. So for me, I even despite not liking that play, I am going to go with her because I think she lands the more damage. Like if you watch the kick she threw to the body of High and Amanda, like the volume was all there. The pressure was all there. The power was all there. And when you watch Shauna Bannon, it's the exact opposite of that, right? Like she doesn't press. She doesn't move forward. She doesn't throw with any gusto behind it. She's touching you. And I think when it comes down to it, both of these women are probably going to land 90 plus punches in this fight. It's just going to be, like a volume fest both ways. And the punches that people are going to remember, the judges are going to remember, they belong to Puja Tomar. And I think that's the difference maker in this fight, is that one of these women is going to throw punches judges will remember, and the other one will say yeah a whole bunch of times and put her fist forward. And that's a game winner for me with Tomar.
We miss you, Caitlin. Sermonera. What's her?
Sermonera.
Come back. Yeah, they're very similar fighters, Tomar and Bannon. But Tomar has more power on her side, as you were alluding to.
Yeah, if you watch their sidekicks, that's the best way to tell the power difference. Like if you watch the sidekick to Shauna Bannon, like it lands, and then you watch the sidekick from Puja Tomar, and it like moves High Amanda. Like it moves her significantly.
Well, I think Bannon was a point fighter originally. I think Severe MMA was talked about this the last episode, how she's still trying to get that out of her system because she did a lot of point fighting or point karate. Or whatever.
I think she was point karate or taekwondo or something like that.
And that's how she fights. Like you said, she just touches you. She doesn't and she doesn't finish anyone. She doesn't have a lot of power. Tomar is better than I remembered her as well. So surprised I'm taking her, but I am taking her here. I'm fading Bannon. This is as much of a fade on Bannon than anything else here.
I would feel better about her if I just felt like she could outpace somebody, but like this isn't the fighter she can outpace.
No. She's fighting herself with power. So yeah. All right. Before we dive into some more fights, it's DraftKings time. When it comes to college basketball in March Mania, one thing is for sure: nothing's for sure. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderella's advancing, top seeds going home early. It's all going to happen. Bet the unexpected every upset every day with DraftKings Sportsbook. With live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays, DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. First time, here's something special just for you, only you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So obviously you're going to use that on Al Horford and Kyle Filipkowski prop plays, but you can use it any way you want, I guess. I bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SGP. That's code SGP for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets. When you bet just $5, only at DraftKings, the crown is yours. Now a professional will tell you more information.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
You would think almost 800 episodes in, I would be a professional at reading ads, but no, I am still not. Still an amateur. Rhythm is throwing an epic March Madness party, and you're invited. All Rhythm users are invited to a first floor watch party, which is today. I think you missed it, ladies and gentlemen, at the Awesome Stadium Swim. But if you can't make it there, don't worry. Rhythm is also giving away a $250 March Madness future for one random lucky Rhythm user. Even if you can't make the party, you may have a few hours to make it there. Depends how close to Vegas you are. You might be able to make it there still. But even if you can't make it there, you can still win the future bet. So Rhythm is very good at predicting March Madness wins and losses. Just last year with UConn winning, their percentage of winners was 39% higher than in ESPN brackets as a whole. Rhythm had 34% of brackets. ESPN had 24.7% of the brackets. Rhythm predicted Duquesne, NC State, and Oakland upsets. 45% of Rhythm brackets had NC State reaching the Sweet 16. So free party if you're close to Las Vegas right now. And at the very least, a chance at a $250 future bet when you sign up with Rhythm. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for details. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party. But more than likely, if you're not there when you're listening to this, you're not making it to the party. But that's okay. We got a party going on right here. And we're going to middleweights next. Christian and Leroy Duncan, two Duncans on here, not just Duncans, two Chris Duncans on this here fight card. This is Christian Leroy Duncan. He's up against Andrey Pulyaev in the middleweight fight, as I mentioned. Pulyaev, 9-2, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once. This is his debut. 1-0 on Contender Series, how he got his way into here. He's won 5 straight. He's not lost since March 2023. 2 inches height, 2 years younger than Duncan. Better striking stats, more active landing strikes, and better grappling stats than Duncan, all based off of 1 fight in Contender Series. He outstruck his opponent in that fight by 3.53 strikes per minute. He's at plus 480. CLD. Oh, I love it when they just use their initials for their nickname. Duncan, 10-2, 8 knockouts, 1 submission, never been finished in any fight. 3-2 in the UFC, 2-2 over his last 4. Loss, win, loss. He is another former Cage Warriors champion. He's got an inch reach over Pulyaev. He's outstruck his opponents by 1.14 strikes per fight per minute, minus 535. Give me CLD, Duncan. Pulyaev went back. I think he was one of the ones that went back and checked. Didn't really blow, as Mal would say from the baseball show, didn't blow my skirt up at all. Duncan has looked good since he come to the UFC. You know, has lost fights, but he's looked like a pretty solid fighter. I think Guppy was a hater originally, but I think he might have won you over. But
I think I'm still a little bit of a hater.
Yeah.
Not a hater enough to not pick him against Pulyaev. No. Pulyaev pretty much to me in that fight he fought Liam Anderson, I want to say. who is a guy from upstate New York. 10th Planet Rochester, if I'm not mistaken. But like he fought a guy and like pretty much showed to me one weapon, and that one weapon was like a really hard kick to the body. And not that that's not good and not a nice weapon to have, but it feels like he needs more than that to beat CLD. You know, like CLD, if nothing else, is like kind of a rangy middleweight, right? Like he's a tall guy for the weight class, and he does a really good job of using that reach. And now, granted, he doesn't seem terribly dangerous, or he's not really, you know, exemplary in the clinch, and he doesn't really seem to have a ground game. So I'm still hating on him here. But at the same time, like, I don't know that kick to the body is going to be all that effective against the guy who's got as long of legs as Duncan does. So I'm going to go Christian Leroy Duncan too. Not sure I'm running to the window to get a negative 500 ticket on him. Cause I just, again, not blown away by him either. So, you know, if he ate one of those kicks to the body and it hit his liver, you know, like maybe that's all Pulyaev needs. And I'd say there's a better than 1 in 5 chance that happens. So,
he's not a guy that you want to put money down on minus 500. So for sure not. All right, we're going to heavyweights now. Marcin Tybura, who is on top turtle this week. So take that information and do as you will. Versus Mick Parkin. 3 5-minute rounds. Let's break it down by telling you that rhymed. Telling you about Tybura. He is 26-9, 10 knockouts, 7 submissions. He's been knocked out 5 times, submitted once. 13-8 in the UFC. Loss, win over his last 4 fights. 4-3 over his last 7. TKO win in his last fight. A regional champion. 2011 pro MMA debut. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 0.31 strikes per minute. He's at plus 106. Parkin is 10-0, 6 knockouts, 1 submission. 4-0 in the UFC. Won his last fight via knockout. He went 1-0 in Contender Series. Based off their last fights, he's 13 pounds or was 13 pounds heavier than Tybura. He's an inch taller. He's got an inch of reach, 10 years younger. So that's a real big gap right there. Better striking stats, better grappling stats, and more active landing strikes than Tybura. And he has outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 0.76 strikes per minute. But his opponents, Gumby, oh boy, his opponent list. He's another one.
It's pretty bad, huh? Yeah, and that's part of the reason I'm going Marcin Tybura here. First of all, the money is pouring in on Mick Parkin right now. So if you're a Tybura guy like me, maybe just wait a day or two. You might get an even better number. Like I was getting ready to pull the trigger on Tybura at like negative 130. And he's plus money now. So I'm glad I waited. And for me, the big difference is that like the level of difficulty for him, you know, what was it, Jamal Pogues and Kai Machado?
It's crazy who he fought. He fought all the, who was it?
Eduardo Nevic on
it was South
Series 2.
Yeah, he has a very similar resume to Salsa Boy, even though Salsa Boy actually won last week. Lucas Brzeski, Mohamed Usman, Cal Machado, Jamal Pogues, Eduardo Neves. That's who's fought.
Yeah, it's not a great list. And, you know, the Nevic fight too, that's Bebejao. Like he had a little bit of trouble in that fight until Bebejao decided to like get himself in a weird grappling position and gave up his back right away. And then I want to say he TKO'd him. But like, look, I think the ground game of Marcin Tybura is wildly underrated. I think he's probably, and I think I've said this on here before, I think he's probably one of the 5 or 6 best wrestlers in the heavyweight division right now. Right? Like you would put Jelton above him, you put both the champs above him, and you'd put Curtis Blades above him. But like after that, you might have to squint and ask yourself who's a better wrestler than him. And I really truly mean that. Like I don't know that there is another guy after those 4 who's better wrestling than him. Because even in his last fight where he lost to Sergey Spivak, it was because he took down Spivak really quick, you know, and he was dry and got caught in a submission. But like he took down Sergey Spivak, which is not an easy thing to do. That dude's a good grappler. And, you know, he did that with Spivak. He did that with Janata Denise. I mean, you want to go back to the fight where he ragdolled Greg Hardy until he was exhausted. I always like talking about that one. Like his wrestling game is just very solid. And it's, you know, it's a lot of body locks and trips, but it's effective for him too. So yeah, give me Marcin Tybura. I think he wrestles the hell out of him here.
Yeah, I'm taking him as well. Levels is the big thing here. This is the massive jump up for Parkin. He hasn't fought anyone with a Wikipedia page. That's the type of competition.
No, Jamal Pogues has got to have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I guess he. I didn't see his highlighted, but you would think he would. But yeah, Tybura is basically good, or maybe not great everywhere, but he's good everywhere and he's solid everywhere. doesn't always bring it. Like he's an up and down fighter, especially
he doesn't always bring it here. But here's the other thing too. A lot of times when he doesn't bring it, you're like, he's lackluster on the feet and gets knocked out, right? Or gets, clipped on the feet. Who is Mick Parkin ever clipped on the feet? And he's fought light heavyweights coming up to heavyweight, right? Because that's what Machado was. I mean, he wound up being a light heavyweight. Pogues was always a light heavyweight. Like he's fought just like guys who could get clipped, and he didn't even clip them.
Yeah. Yep. Tybura is a worthy dog, and I'm happy that the number is getting wider as we maybe not as we speak, but since the first time I checked it. He opened at minus 145 and now he's a dog. So yeah, I don't know if it's a hometown thing, the Parkin's fighting.
I think it's a youth thing. I think more and more people, especially because it's been shown on the broadcast lately, that the fighters 10 years younger win 67% of the time. It's been on the last 3 broadcasts. I think gamblers have taken to that.
Yep. It took the UFC broadcast to clue them in. They could have just paid attention to our show. How many years ago we talked about this? But anyhow, Tybura is our pick. Hopefully he comes through. Good transition. We're going to talk about underdog fantasy now after we're both in on the same dog here. It's time for bonus underdog pick'em. It says my bonus underdog pick'em, but Gumby's going to give one to you. Underdog pick'em. You can play any sport and win up to 100 times your money. Lots to choose from right now with the Madness of March and lots of MMA. What you got for us?
Yeah, I'm going to take a fight or a line or a projection rather from the fight we just talked about. I'm going to take Marcin Tybura's higher than 1.5 takedowns. I think there's a chance that we see Mick Parkin get up the first time, but maybe not get up the second time. And you know what? Yeah. We only need 2 here to beat that projection. So give me the higher than on Marcin Tybura's takedowns.
All right, take that advice. And my advice would be sign up with our code MMA SGPN. And that way you get to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. Underdogfantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. And SGPN is partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. An Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at the sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using your Edge Boost card. And you know your money is safe as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit checks and it's completely free. Sign up for Edge Boost and enter a free $2,000 bracket contest. But hurry, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bracket, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BRACKET. Oh, we skipped the most important thing here. Is this going to be a sloppy fatties over? Very well could be, right?
I have a take on that I will perhaps give you tomorrow.
Okay. they got the non-physical specimen part of the play down at the very least. So now that these guys are buff. All right, co-main event of the prelims. I made that up. Is a flyweight about Loughran Kavanagh, who we discussed a couple episodes ago, versus Felipe dos Santos, who's going to be mentioned earlier. He is lippe detona, which means like exploding lip, right? Or big
mouth, I think. Big mouth, yeah. Way. Yeah, it literally translates, I think, to exploding lips, but it means like loud mouth or something.
Right, like right. He's 8, but both nicknames work for MMA. So 8-2 with 1 no contest, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. 1-2 in the UFC. Loss over his last 3. 3 inches height, 3 inches of reach over Kavanagh. A year younger. Kavanagh's a young guy too. More active landing strikes than Kavanagh. He's outstruck his opponents in the UFC by 0.09 strikes per minute. He's at plus 260. Kavanagh is 8-0 with 5 knockouts, 1-0 in the UFC, 1-0 contender series. Better striking stats than Dos Santos. He's outstruck his opponents by 0.17 strikes per minute. He's at minus 298. This one, I thought when I originally saw the numbers, I thought it should be closer. It's actually gotten a bit closer since I broke it down, which I think Dos Santos is being underrated a bit here. I am still taking Kavanagh though. He hasn't shown any reason not to take him. He can detonate this man's lip on the feet. He's got a pretty good, well-rounded game. He took care of our boy Antoine Ho. But like I said, Dos Santos is, I think, better than the line is making him out to be.
I kind of agree with you, and also I will just say this. So I'm going to take Kavanagh. He's another one I'm a little bit hesitant on. And the biggest reason I'm hesitant on him is because I think he's gotten so used to knocking people out that he will try to knock Dos Santos out. And I don't know that he can be knocked out, if I'm being honest. Like, it seems like his head is made of concrete or something like that, because he takes a punch really well. He took some big ones from a nail cape and like kept moving and looked pretty damn good in that fight. So his big issue has kind of been his wrestling. And I don't really see that as being an avenue here for Kavanagh. So I'm going to go with Kavanagh, but I would just pause and say, like, be careful. I don't know this guy can be knocked out.
Yep. Very true. He is not, no one has proved otherwise. So he's not been finished either in any way in any of his fights. So, all right. The main event of the prelims is a lightweight bout, Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. I say Chris Padilla, but we all know him as Taco Padilla. He's 15-6, 8 knockouts, 5 submissions. Mr. Padilla, been knocked out once, submitted twice, 2-0 in the UFC. He's won 5 straight, all via finish. He's not lost since May of 2022. He's got multiple region championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Get sticky and all that good stuff. Try Madness as your code. It should work. 20% off if it does. 0-1 in Bellator. Used to fight at 170. Oh, Bellator never die also. 0-1 in Bellator. Used to fight at 170. 2014 Pro MMA debut. 7 years younger than Herbert. He's more active landing strikes than Herbert. He's got better grappling stats than Herbert, and he's outstruck his opponents by 0.87 strikes per minute in the UFC. He's at plus 100. His number has come down a bit. He was a little higher of a dog a few days ago. The Black Country Badger is Mr. Herbert, 13-5-1. So 13-5-1, 9 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out 3 times, submitted once, 3-4-1 in the UFC, 1-1-1 over his last 3. He did win his last fight, though. He's another former Cage Warriors champion. 2015 Pro MMA debut, 4 inches of height, 3 inches reach over Padilla. He has been outstruck in the UFC by 0.21 strikes per minute, minus 105. So pretty much a pick 'em. And Gumby will finish this off.
I'm going to go Taco.
Me too.
I'll take the slight dog in Taco. Couple of things. Worried about how Jai Herbert's been finished a bunch in his career, and maybe not so much lately. I think his last 2 fights went to decision, but the 3 losses before that, all finishes. He's been knocked out. He's been submitted. He's kind of had his chin touched a few times. And also, like, I'm a little bit worried about, like, who took him down in his career. Like, I know Fares Zaim looked a little bit better in his wrestling last time out, but, like, it seemed kind of effortless for Zaim sometimes in there. And, Padilla's got a good takedown game and certainly a good submission game, too. So, I think that's dangerous in there. I think Jai Herbert's probably a favorite because of the length here. He's a guy who fights pretty long and has good use of his limbs. But I don't know that matters because Padilla comes forward kind of recklessly and gets himself into scraps and gets into the range. And I think if he does that here, he's going to give Jai Herbert a lot of trouble. So I'm going to go with Taco Padilla.
Yeah, I'm taking Taco as well. He's been destroying everyone that's been in front of him. And he's basically, he can do it on the feet or on the ground as well. So Herbert had a very tough strength and schedule starting in the UFC. But at this point, I think the Taco can get the Badger here. Do we agree on every fight?
No, we missed one.
Oh, we missed one.
You took Loughran, and then I took Fletcher.
That one was a toss-up, so that's not surprising. All right, we got Padilla, we got Kavanagh, Tybura, Duncan, CLD Duncan. It's not a Tuma, and I got Loughran. He's got Fletcher. We both got Kutateladze. Boom, you're all set. That's 5 fights for you on this episode. 7 fights for you. I'm melting down, apparently. Tomorrow is 6, the main card in all our fantasy plays. In the meantime, we shall be in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. You can hit us up in the comment section on YouTube at MMA Gambling Podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Twitter, X is SGPN MMA. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer. He's at Gumby Vreeland. I'm Jeff Fox Writer on Instagram. I've got a Substack. At the very least, enter my pick'em contest for this week's UFC at moneymma.substack.com. Gumby has Top Turtle MMA Podcast. We didn't hint. I told you Marcin Tybura is on it this week. Who else is on it?
The other Chris Duncan, who we'll be talking about tomorrow.
We shall be talking about him tomorrow. And what else can you do? You should go to our website, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Enter all our bracket contests, MMA, the March Madness contest. Check out all our articles, our podcasts, all the good stuff. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Try Madness as your code. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Get some bonus content. And if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use the code MMASGPN. We shall be back tomorrow. It will be Lipe Daytona, Jeff Fox, and what your name's going to be the Georgian Viking, Gumby Vreeland, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Oh, the damn.